Shabbat Shalom. Today our message on Naso is brought to us by Mauricio Quintero. Those who trust in the Lord, in Yud He Vav He, are like Mount Zion. They cannot be moved. They cannot be shaken. They will endure forever. From Psalm 125:1. Parashat Naso is the longest single parasha in the entire Torah, having 176 verses. Naso means lift up, raise up, or take a census. Among the topics developed here are the census of the Levites by family, detailing their responsibilities. We learn about the sotah, the woman suspected of adultery. We learn about the Nazirite vow and the Birkat HaKohanim, the priestly blessing, and the offerings of the princes, the Nisim, the princes of every tribe. But before I begin, I'd like to discuss how our ancestors and the world at that time experienced relationships. Relationships were very predictable, like the seasons, like jobs and family activities. In this sense, the world was more stable, the future more predictable. With information technology, the world has been transformed at every level, and its influence on our thinking has transformed our relationships. For example, I remember my grandfather saying that my grandmother knew everyone's schedules, what activities they all had during the day. When we were waking up, meal times, bedtimes, they were all very regular. At my house, we had breakfast at 6 a.m., lunch at 12:30 p.m., dinner at 6 o'clock p.m., and we went to bed at 8. My father would arrive home at 5 p.m., sharp. We all left the house at 6:45 a.m., and we were home for lunch. We went outside to play between 3 and 5 p.m. so that we could be there to greet my father when he came home. And on weekends, we listened to the radio. Even the seasons were regular. The winds began on October 1st. The cicadas came out on February, announcing the heat. And the rain started in May, allowing the land to stabilize so that the harvests could begin in November. Even relationships seemed more uniform, with desserts for special occasions, such as birthdays, weddings, or graduations. In marriage, relationships were very stable, within a traditional family having defined roles, and new clothes appeared whenever there was a change in secular year or gifts appeared on birthdays. In this so-called progressive world, consumerism and the gratification of endless desire have been introduced, where human beings cease to have limits and are given free rein to the immense creativity of the mind. This way of thinking has led to a situation where people place no limits on their consumption. And we have begun to over-exploit the world. Now everyone wants a car, new clothes every week, and to eat out every day. By focusing on pleasure and novelty, we are polluting the planet with smog from vehicle emissions and even from the energy required to manufacture batteries for electric cars. Cities are plagued by traffic congestion, and suburbs are lined with parked cars. This excessive and limitless consumption has led to desserts being eaten not just on special occasions, but even 3 or 4 times a day, contributing to our overweight and even obese populations. Meat consumption led to destruction of forests, not only for grazing livestock, but also for grain production to generate animal feed, simply to satisfy the desire to eat meat 3 to 4 times a week. The desire for technology and social media has led us to neglect outdoor activities, family movie nights, and the cinema or theater as truly enjoyable family activities. We crave entertainment lasting from 30 seconds to 2 minutes, the famous clips or reels. Simultaneously, overproduction has created an environmental imbalance, contributing to the greenhouse effect and creating super kids for climate change. So when I observe this imbalance, I find a glimmer of hope in the words of Parashat Naso. If we read carefully, searching for the mosaic within the passage, we notice highly repetitive activities that are designed to be enduring and predictable over time. They are actions contrary to today's world of desires that seek extravagance. The first action was to count one by one. Each Levite, each man, was assigned very specific tasks, lifting, carrying, serving, for a very specific period of time, 30 to 50 years old. Then it addressed the limits when a man doubted his wife's integrity, presenting creative ways to resolve his spirit of jealousy. In that era, women were very vulnerable. And if a man, due to his doubt based on jealousy, wanted to divorce his wife, he could abandon her. Socially, a woman thus abandoned and divorced under suspicion was vulnerable, socially and economically, and also susceptible to abuse that could even harm her physical well-being. So the portion of Sotah focused on protecting women and bringing reason to men's jealousy. Similarly, God, knowing the hearts of men who are often driven by impulse and impetuously want to feel close to God, formulated vows. How many twisted tales have we heard of vows made to God by men throughout human history that ended in disaster? For example, Tomás de Torquemada with his Dominican vows, Joan of Arc in the war with England, Pope Urban II with the Crusades, Louis XIV, who took vows to legitimize slavery, Isabella I of Castile, initiating the Inquisition, Henry VIII of England, the creation of Anglicanism, leading to wars, to name just a few. So God provided a way out that involved a temporary vow, personal in nature, and well-defined in its roles and limits, the Nazirite vow. We read how Jephthah made a vow that committed his daughter's life, something God never asked for, because we should not commit the lives of others as a vow to God. Next, Naso teaches us how we should bless, setting limits that don't necessarily restrict us from blessing people. Nowadays, people tend to bless based on their mood, the day, their affinity for others. It's interesting that the blessings function as a priestly blessing, in addition to being an eternal one. It is complete. It doesn't need to add or take away words. It doesn't depend upon the priest's mood, whether he liked the person or whether he was having a good or bad day. There's no room to add our own flavor to the Aaronic blessing. I appreciate Alejandro blessing the congregation every Shabbat because that same blessing in each service touches different moments in the listener's life at various stages of maturity and in various moods. On some days, it comforts the soul who is seeking refuge. on others when we need light, and on others when we are seeking shalom, peace. The parasha concludes with the princes presenting voluntary offerings before God. They all present the same offering. And it's interesting that the Torah could have summarized it as follows. And on the 12 subsequent days, each prince presented a gold and silver bowl full of fine flour with oil, a gold bowl full of incense, and they offered a burnt offering consisting of a young bull, a ram, a year-old lamb. Afterward, they made atonement and presented peace offerings. But the Torah describes the exact same action 12 times, once for each tribe and once for each day. This is what is precious about the Torah. It gives us a glimpse that although outwardly the offerings were the same, inwardly for God they were unique. So Naso teaches us to rise above our mere existence, to transform an offering that does not seem so different from what others might offer into something special, to serve others daily without anyone possibly noticing, to bear a responsibility without being publicly rewarded for it, or to bless with the words that God left for others with the right intention. Our parasha abounds with many names, lists, and repetitions. Similarly, our spiritual life sometimes seems very routine, very repetitive. We work, we serve, we study the same things. We repeat the Siddur week after week, day after day, and we begin reading the Torah once again, every year. But the important thing is that God sees each repeated act done faithfully and with the proper intention, with the right intention, as something unique. The priestly blessing is always the same, but it doesn't necessarily touch the soul in the same way. Modernity often thinks that what is authentic must be spontaneous and creative and emotionally new. How many people get divorced because there's no spark in their relationship? They divorce because of monotony, as the Shear song says, or because they're so predictable. But the Torah often teaches the opposite. Depth is born from returning to the origin and starting again, starting anew. We see how we have many repetitive actions, such as the manna every morning, the korban tamid that were offered in the morning and in the evening, the Shabbat that returns every week, the festivals every year. And so the Aaronic benediction, the priestly blessing, returns again and again, perhaps to help us align ourselves and build firm spiritual foundations. We read in the Birkat Kohanim, "May God bless you and keep you." These words are seemingly fixed, but they convey a different message to a child who hears them, to a confused young person, to a weary adult, to someone who is ill, or to an elderly person filled with gratitude. The text can console today, correct tomorrow, sustain in the future, or heal the soul. Thus, repetition does not imply redundancy. It implies guidance, establishing or building identity. Spirituality depends not only on inspiration, but also on faithfulness, on what seems to be meaningful repetition. The Kohen does not create the blessing. He only channels it. Therefore, the Siddur states before reciting the blessing, who commanded us to bless his people Israel with love. Just as a river with a stable course constantly renews its water, it is not the same once it has flowed. So too is this channeled blessing. The priestly blessing also bestows upon us, may he make his face shine upon you, granting clarity, understanding, and favor in this ever-changing world. In changing times, the priestly blessing is also an anchor for the soul. If we consider what happens between each Shabbat, so many things occur. Sometimes wars break out. Catastrophes happen. Illnesses or pandemics arise. Losses occur during the week, and doubts or victories arise. And yet, the same voice from heaven appears. May Yud He Vav He lift up his countenance upon you and grant you Shalom. It's a blessing that gives us permanence in moments of exhaustion, even when we feel nothing or traversing spiritual deserts. Let us not fall into the current human illusion peddled by Hollywood that only the new has life, that what is changeable, even if not lasting, generates pleasure. And that is what is important. What is truly important is to anchor and to give stability to life, because the Torah teaches that the eternal lives precisely because it remains, and the soul matures when it discovers depths in what seemed like repetition. It's like the sea, always the same, yet never the same. So Psalm 125 teaches us that those who trust in the Eternal One do not move, are not moved. Not moving is not the same as being rigid, nor is it the absence of change. It is the permanence of identity. Mount Zion changes externally with the seasons. It has seen generations come and go. Its landscapes evolve, but it remains. Modernity seeks intensity, as we see reflected in Samson, excitement, novel, and rooted in spiritually intense experiences. However, the Torah highly values repetition, continuity, and daily faithfulness. Permanence creates a dwelling place where one can rest. It removes the nomadic aspect of life. The psalmist says, they will remain forever, because it implies continuity, rootedness, and transcendence. Samson was a Nazarite who lived between Zorah in the territory of Dan and Philistia, suggesting instability. However, another Nazarite, Samson, Shmuel, says that he remained serving in the house of God, and we read of him, he grew. So I'd like to conclude by saying that the priestly blessing does not need to be reinvented every week, because its power does not come from human creativity, but from divine faithfulness. Like Mount Zion, the words remain. And precisely because they remain, they can sustain entire generations. Over time, we come to understand that it is not the blessing that needs to be renewed, but rather that we are the ones who need to be renewed by it. My prayer is that we seek what is permanent, not what is changeable, being grounded is equivalent to living in stability and therefore is blessed. Shabbat Shalom. Now we come to the part where we discuss the message that we heard this morning. Thank you, Mauricio. You know, it's very interesting that there were several things that happened before I got sick a while ago. And one of the things that I realized was that I have the type of personality that loves to get excited about things. I love the spiritual highs, you know, the idea of angels and like when something would happen that was like a spiritual high for me, I'd get so excited. And then the aspects of my life that were very mundane, things that I had to do on a daily basis, I started to almost get upset because they didn't seem to fulfill that part in me that needed those rushes. And your message really spoke to my heart. And it's interesting how important it is to have these mundane things to do every single day on a schedule. They're really important for us. And I remember growing up, it was the same in my house. We knew when our parents were coming home. We knew when we could go out to play. We knew when we had to go to bed. We knew, lunch. So everything was easier. My closet wasn't filled with clothes, where it's so bursting that I end up having to go and give things away because they were just, first of all, we couldn't afford it, but we also didn't need it. And there were just certain things that we had. We didn't have the obesity that we have today because there's just so much available everywhere. You're in so many of the points you spoke about. It's so true. It says our life can seem very routine, very repetitive. We work, we serve, we study the same things, we repeat the same siddur. Sometimes I would think, oh, we're saying the same prayers over and over again. Maybe I have to find a way to make it more exciting. It's not what God is asking for us. We need to rejoice in the simplicity of things, in the things that He has provided for us and given us. Rejoice in the mundane. That it helped me so much listening to your message. And, even it's interesting because I sing to people who have Alzheimer's. And I have to sing the same songs over and over because that's all they remember. And at the beginning, I was wondering, I would try to fit new things in, but it never touched them the way the same songs over and over that were repeated that went directly to their souls. It's your message was very, very, very apropos for this time. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, it's for me, I think because we're so different in that way, Peggy, what you're talking about, Mauricio, part of me is so attuned to that. Having ritual and certain routines that are so rich in their repetition. I remember even as a child, I would look into a part of the house where we kept the cleaning products and all that. And the way the house was, you could look at sort of through a window to the other thing, and it had a little light on, and I'd see the ketchup and the Comet or the Ajax, the cleansers, and there was something almost, I would get such a feeling of, I don't know how to even explain it. It was almost a spiritual experience to see the richness of routine and stability. So I would see these products and I would get such a piercing and I don't even know how to put it in words, but it seems like even the whole universe is based on that principle. It's not crazy newness like you see in Hollywood and wanting a thrill and this and that. And even certain, I think you said, Peggy, cicadas or certain insects only come up every 7 years, and some insects come up only a few times a year. I don't
Not
know.
7 years, every summer when there's heat.
Okay, but there are certain creatures, I think in the insect world, that have a cycle, and it's a crazy, the number seven, but it has to do with the number seven. Like there, the beauty of sameness is so, I've always, and something, you're bringing up something that's been such a part of me. I'm really thankful to hear it said like that. C.S. Lewis was very much like that. He would talk about, people would complain, like when he went to church, and he loved the sameness of the same liturgy, because it was rich in a renewal all the time. And he was living at a time in the world when, progress was happening and things were changing. And he hated to see this modernization in the church and all these things. He said, why do people need new liturgy, new rituals? He saw the richness. Even The Hobbit is based on that. The beauty of everyday routine, and the strength and intensity and depth of it.
Yeah,
It's not,
the beauty of coming together every Friday with your family, every Friday night to have
yeah,
a dinner.
yeah,
Some people do that on Sunday lunchtime, but Sunday was a family day. We've lost that with modern technology. Started with the television. I remember sitting around the radio too, listening. Used to love to hear stories being read.
right.
Radio.
Remember the McLean, the guy who had a radio show? He would do stories
Ev-
every week.
Wonderful.
I think you liked him. Remember?
Loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But kids love it. They love,
We need, children need it.
yeah,
Need
yeah.
stability, and when we don't have it, their lives become chaotic. And that's the world we're living in. And it's interesting, Mauricio, that you said even the weather patterns have become chaotic. I mean, if I look at the weather pattern that happened here in Montreal, I don't know if you heard, but because I bought flowers and I went to put them out on my balcony, and I had to take them in around 5 in the afternoon because suddenly this storm came up, 80-kilometer-an-hour winds, hail, rain, lightning. I had to grab the flowers and bring them inside. And then it was gone. It was like out of
I
nowhere.
know the world is that's what chaos means.
Okay.
No regularity to anything. It's like, and there's such a
And we
beauty.
don't realize that we're causing it.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's like,
uh, honestly, there are so many things that I love. If you listen today when Etil was reading, it says at the end that that Simpson was between two borders, is
Laura?
tall in also in Dan. So that is instability. And I didn't write it because if not, it will be very long, the message. But it's interesting that in the book of Judges, like 2 or 3 times says that everyone made what is was good for their own eye.
Everyone did what was right in their own eyes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is not necessarily that they were sinning against God.
Yeah.
No, is that they instead to say, for example, oh, I will not give this follow this routine. I will do, for example, uh, few things. One is that if we hear Manoah build an altar. What the Torah said, do not build altar only at the place where God decides to be.
Right.
Okay? But he made his own altar. That
Yeah.
is what good for him, to his eyes.
Right.
So he's becoming creative. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Then what else he did? He offered an holocaust when the Torah explicit said that this is a task for the Levites,
Right.
for the priesthood. Okay.
Right. Right.
He was from Dan.
Right.
So for him was good to make this.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we hear about the Manoah's woman. Okay, he saw a man of God talking to her, and the man was not there. Is supposedly at that time who should be at the field? The man, not the woman. So it's again, he's doing what is good to his own eyes.
Mm.
So that creates instability. You know, and this is something that sometimes we want to change in order to become creative before God. And then we start to do things because of emotions,
Hmm.
according how I feel. Then it becomes that your tongue betray you because you start to talk to God, making promises or vows that He never required to you.
Right.
How many times I've heard people that they said to God, "Oh God, if you give me or grant me this favor, then I will do this or I will do that."
Right. He
Okay.
never asked. Yeah.
He never asked you to do that.
No.
Even He never asked us to be Nasir
Right.
because it doesn't say in the Torah, oh, every man or every woman in Israel will be Nasir between this age and this age. No, it's not a command.
No.
No, it's an option, a personal vote. Okay. And what happened with the when we take these votes and we make votes to God,
Vows.
vows, yes,
Either
vows.
a vow or an oath.
Yeah, okay. So vows to God. Well, there is a mess.
Right. Yeah. I've seen it.
Okay. You know, for example, Joan the Ark, she supposedly heard the voice of God in her mind and she started fighting. The end of her was very undescribable, terrible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She was burned.
But what she made to kill following God's voice
Yeah.
and by the promise she made. So is that what God really asked?
Right.
No. We can see, for example, today's the famous holy wars. Okay,
Right.
God never asked to make wars in His
No.
name.
It was all about territory
Never.
and power.
No, He owns all the land.
Right.
So
Yeah.
why we should take His honor and make a vow to say, "Oh God, I want
Yeah.
to protect your name, and I promise to keep your holy name untouchable." He never asked that.
Right.
So sometimes it's good to be creative because it's something that he put us.
Right.
But there are so many things that he never asked to change
Right.
because are eternal. For example, the Ten Commandments.
Right.
When people start to become creative, adding more commandments to the Ten Commandments,
Right.
okay, and made them a law,
Right.
then what happened to the world? Well, since then we have religious wars.
Right. Right.
Uh, that is why I taught, for example, some kings and queens
Right.
in this Torah portion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, so that is for me is just returning back. You know, I remember, and there is something that today I can thank God because that was something that we follow when we were young parents. My three kids, they have schedules. Okay. They have a time to go to bed. They have time to wake up. They have time to eat. And they had regularity in their schedule, daily schedule. So that creates in them a sensation of order, organization, and discipline.
Mm.
Okay. So today, what I can see, for example, that 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 thanks God, they are just different from the other people at the universities. Okay. Santi was telling me, for example, that when there are matches between Europeans teams, or and they were playing soccer, they just leave the class, okay, and go outside the classroom to watch the TV or watch the one screen to see the match.
Oh.
Okay, he was surprised. Okay, honestly, because for him, time of class is time of class. Okay,
And the
right?
professor did nothing? The teacher did nothing?
No, the teacher never said nothing.
Wow.
Okay, because of the modernity,
Right.
supposedly.
Right.
Everyone can do whatever is good for his own eyes.
Right.
Okay. And what happened to these people? They start to live in chaos.
Right.
Okay. Because that is exactly what happened in the book of Judges. You can see chaos there,
Right.
instability. Okay.
Right.
So, and I put this example because then if I have seen many marriages, for example, being destroyed because they do whatever is good for their own eyes,
Right.
not thinking about the community. Okay.
Right.
And for example, the man goes outside to play football when supposedly he needs to be making homeworks with the daughter or son. Okay. The woman decides to go to the beauty
Hello?
salon, yes, to make something, nails or whatever, instead to be cooking, okay,
Right. Right.
at home and feeding the kids. Oh no, I gonna ask you and I'm gonna order by phone or whatever, but the meal they receive is not good.
Right.
Okay. So things like that. Okay. So uh, stability brings you encourage, and encourage give you a blessing. Okay. So in at the end
I mean,
is
anchorage,
encourage.
an
Yes.
anchor, that stability.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Um, in it's extremely exciting to see how a ship, very big ship, can be can get stability when they put the anchor in the sea.
Yes. Yeah.
It's really incredible.
Yeah.
So that is something that we can learn. Okay.
And
So
we also see chaos in a home where, because I know a couple, they're both religious, they both say they believe in God, but they both have different upbringings when it comes to stability and routine. So one is very routine and very clear about schedules, and the other goes more by mood and even disciplined by mood. And sometimes there'll be this clash, and it makes confusion among the kids because they don't know who to follow and what to listen to, and that could be very hard on a home. I mean, the marriage may look good, but if there isn't unity in
mhm.
that idea, it creates chaos in the home.
Yes.
Yeah,
So when to be creative, for example, when we give thanks to God,
yeah,
when we could be creative, for example, uh, when we want to honor God by giving, by making better life to our neighbor. Okay, that things we can be creative.
yes,
In if not, creativity is very important.
right.
Look how they build all the tools used in the Mishkan. Okay,
Yes,
okay, but there are many things that should not be creative. Okay, so so it's just a message to do that. Okay,
A creativity is not um, opposite to everything you're saying. It's just within certain boundaries. I mean, you could be
that,
creative within so many, you can have parameters. It doesn't mean to change the liturgy. It means you could have it everything. You could be creative in your cooking. You could be creative in how you decorate your home and how God is a God of creation. There's room for creativity in everything you do.
yeah. What I find also is even in the style of clothes. And I'm a child of the 50s, which has a very different outlook than the child of the 60s. If you look at the clothes from the 50s, they were very conservative. Color was matched in certain ways. You had very clear colors that went together. Then you go to the 60s where everything was thrown out. Paisleys and polka dots and squares and all kinds of crazy colors put together, which when I look at it, I go nuts because it just seems chaotic. Even the music changed. Beautiful, beautiful music suddenly became what is called today noise. Everything is out of whack with what God has created for us. So it's like that in every single area. It's aberration of what God wants. He created order and we create chaos. So, the results are seen in every aspect of our lives.
Even
Making
animals like routine. If you
Yes,
don't, if you don't give a, I was looking at some videos. If you
yeah.
don't feed the dog or play with it, sometimes they'll go and grab the leash because they know it's time to go out for a walk.
And if you're 5 minutes late with giving them food, they sit there looking at you. I know. They know schedule. I was upset at schedule when I was young, but we didn't go to bed at 8. We were told to go to bed right after supper, like at 6:30. And I ran away from home when I was 6 because of that. I got
Really? I
down.
didn't know you went to bed that early, yeah?
Yeah, the parents
Wow.
came home, they wanted us out of the way. Unless I'm remembering it wrong, which is very
You
possible.
like those two women you sent me the video of about the Jude. Oh, I shouldn't do.
There's no one alive that I can ask anymore. So that anyway,
Yeah.
that was a wonderful message. I don't know if there's anything else, but rejoicing in the mundane, taking the everyday tasks that we have to do, starting with making our bed, doing all these things and rejoicing in the mundane is
Remember what Saint
freedom.
Teresa said, the crazy saint of Saint Teresa of Avila? She said, God lives in the pots and the pans.
Yeah, I was looking at your pots and the pans in the background there. That
Where?
right behind you. He's in the pots and the pans in your room, in the corner of your room behind you, the other way.
Oh, I see flowers. I see.
And next to right in the corner.
Oh, that must. Okay, what is that? Okay.
Your
Oh,
pot.
yeah, yeah, the other side. Yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, thank you, Mauricio. That was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. Listening to messages don't mean anything if we don't apply them.
Right.
And it's so important to learn and to do, to observe, to do. That's what helps us because we're all given, as Rabbi taught us, we all have the gift of faith, the emunah, but then we have to take a step and move into an area where we may be uncomfortable, and that's what turns it into bitachon, into trust. And God always judges our intention, the intention of our hearts, just like you spoke about today. So again, thank you, Mauricio. And if there isn't anything else, I want to wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you, Mauricio.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
For David. Bye.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat shalom.
Baribar.